Julian stood before the massive, spiraling gates of the Galactic Medical Institute, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. The sprawling campus was a hub of interstellar academia, with sleek buildings and hovering vehicles that shimmered under the twin suns. As he made his way to the registration desk, his nerves buzzed with the realization that he was about to be part of something far beyond his planet's confines. "Name and species?" asked the clerk, a Yelothian with iridescent skin and 6 eyes, barely glancing up from her screen. "Julian Baker, human," he replied, adjusting the strap of his bag. The clerk paused, her eyes flicking up with a hint of surprise. "Human? Ah, you're one of the rare ones this cycle. Welcome." She handed him a badge. "Your orientation group is gathering at the North Wing. Can't miss it." "Thank you," Julian said, clipping the badge onto his jacket. As he turned, he bumped into a towering crystalline entity. Its body shimmered with internal lights, and it chimed melodically as it moved. "Apologies," Julian muttered, stepping aside. The crystalline tilted its head, the lights within it pulsing softly. "No harm done, fleshling. First time at GMI?" "Yeah, is it that obvious?" Julian chuckled, trying to mask his unease. "Somewhat," the crystalline replied, its voice a harmony of chimes. "I'm Threx. I remember my first day. Overwhelming, but you'll adapt. We all do." "Julian, thanks, Threx. Any tips for a newcomer?" "Stay curious and open. You'll learn not just about medicine, but about cultures far beyond your own. Come, I'll show you to the orientation." They walked together, Threx's form reflecting the vibrant colors of the campus. Julian listened intently as Threx described the various faculties and their specialties. "Here we are." Threx gestured towards a large hall filled with new students. "I must join my group now. Good luck, Julian." "Thanks for the help, Threx," Julian said, watching the crystalline join another group. Entering the hall, Julian found himself among a crowd of diverse species, each conversing in varied dialects and tones. He found a seat next to a female with delicate feather-like structures framing her face. "Is this seat taken?" Julian asked, pointing to the empty spot. "Go ahead," she replied, her voice melodious. "I'm Sari from Tryon." "Julian from Earth. Nice to meet you." Sari smiled. "Ah, Earth. I've read about your planet's rich history. Quite fascinating." "Yeah? It's always interesting to see what others find noteworthy about it." As they chatted, a speaker took the stage, a distinguished-looking figure who radiated authority. "Welcome, students," he began, his voice echoing through the hall. "You are here because you have chosen a path that crosses galaxies. Here, we heal, we learn, and we grow together as one community." Julian listened, his initial apprehension giving way to a surge of excitement about the adventures that lay ahead. He turned to Sari, who seemed equally captivated by the speaker's words. "Looks like we're in for quite the journey," he whispered. Sari nodded, her eyes bright. "Indeed, and it starts now." As the orientation continued, Julian felt a newfound confidence. He was ready to embrace this new chapter, filled with potential and the promise of contributing to a galaxy that was now his extended home. The second day at the Galactic Medical Institute brought Julian to the expansive Xenobiology laboratory, a state-of-the-art facility buzzing with activity. Walls lined with holographic displays showed anatomical structures of various alien species, each more bizarre and fascinating than the last. Julian, carrying a notebook filled with scribbled questions, felt a rush of anticipation. As he found a station, the professor, a tall, slender being known as Professor Nylar, approached him. "Mr. Baker, I trust you found our resources adequate." "More than adequate, Professor Nylar," Julian replied, his eyes scanning the array of tools and screens before him. "I'm particularly interested in the practical applications we'll be learning." "Ah, you will find today's session quite enlightening," Nylar said, gesturing to a central table where a hologram flickered to life, displaying a complex alien cardiovascular system. "Today we dissect the Gorvian circulatory pathways, a challenge for many given their 4 hearts." Julian joined a group of students, among them Sari, who waved him over. "Looks complicated," he commented, examining the holographic pulsing organs. "Indeed," Sari responded, adjusting her datapad. "Gorvian surgery requires precision unlike any other. You ready for this?" "As I'll ever be," Julian said, pulling on his gloves. The class began, with students tasked to simulate emergency procedures on the holographic model. Julian's turn came, and as he interacted with the model, an unexpected alert sounded. "Human touch recognized. Adjusting simulation for enhanced durability, the system announced, causing a murmur among the students. Professor Nilar approached, intrigued. Fascinating. Human physiology adapts differently to Gorvian tissue. Julian, let's increase the complexity. Can you replicate a double bypass on the secondary heart? Julian nodded, focusing intently as he manipulated the holographic tools. The class watched, some taking notes, others whispering in various dialects. You see, Nilar explained, observing Julian's technique, human dexterity offers a unique advantage in microsurgeries. Notice his grip, less force, more precision. Julian completed the task, the model stabilizing under his careful manipulation. Simulation successful, the computer voiced, as Julian stepped back, wiping virtual sweat from his brow. Excellent work, Julian, Nilar praised, then addressed the class. Let's discuss the anatomical differences and surgical implications we observed. Thoughts on human versus Xentarian approaches? A Xentarian student raised a limb. Human methods seem less invasive, could reduce recovery times. An excellent observation, Nilar affirmed. Diversity in techniques can lead to better outcomes across species. Julian's presence here not only enriches his own learning, but enhances ours with human perspectives. As the session concluded, Julian and Sari exchanged impressed glances. Seems you're becoming quite the celebrity here, Sari teased lightly. Julian laughed, packing up his tools. Or just a curiosity. Either way, it's all about learning, right? Right, Sari agreed, smiling, and perhaps teaching a bit as well. Walking out of the lab, Julian felt a growing sense of responsibility and excitement. His unique human perspective was more than just an academic curiosity. It was a valuable contribution to a galaxy of diverse medical knowledge. Early the next morning, Julian joined his classmates aboard a sleek shuttle destined for a field training exercise on Talos 4, a planet known for its rugged terrain and extreme weather conditions. The trip was designed to test the medical students' ability to handle emergency situations in hostile environments. As the shuttle descended through the turbulent atmosphere, Julian glanced at Sari, who appeared unusually tense. First time on a rough entry? He asked. Sari nodded, gripping her seat. Talos 4 is notorious for its storms. I read about its electromagnetic anomalies. Not the easiest place for a field trip. The shuttle landed with a jolt, and the students quickly disembarked into a landscape of jagged rocks and swirling dust clouds. Their instructor, a robust Vortanian named Dr. Helix, gathered the group. Today, you will face simulations designed to push your limits. Remember, the conditions here mimic real-life crises you might encounter anywhere in the galaxy. Julian adjusted his medical pack, bracing himself against the gusting winds. What's our first scenario, Dr. Helix? A retrieval and rescue operation, Dr. Helix explained. One of your teammates is stranded with multiple injuries across this canyon. You need to stabilize them and bring them back to this base camp. The exercise began with Julian, Sari, and 2 others navigating the rocky terrain. Halfway across, a siren blared, signaling the start of an artificial storm, complete with high winds and flashing lights simulating lightning. Looks like we've got additional challenges, Julian shouted over the roar, leading the way with a handheld scanner that beeped intermittently, guiding them to the injured student. Upon arrival, they found a mannequin equipped with sensors, mimicking life-threatening injuries. Julian took charge, assessing the injuries and directing his team to apply emergency treatments. We need a tourniquet here and prep for a thoracic drain, he instructed, his hands steady despite the simulated chaos. As they worked, an unexpected gust swept a medical kit off the ground, sending supplies scattering. I've got it! Sari yelled, chasing after the rolling items. Julian secured the mannequin on a stretcher, his training kicking in seamlessly. Let's move. Keep the head elevated and watch for shock signs, he called out as they maneuvered their patient back toward the base camp. The trek back was grueling. The winds intensified, testing their physical strength and endurance. As they neared the camp, Julian's lead helped maintain the team's focus, ensuring the safety of their patient and each other. Back at base, Dr. Helix greeted them, a broad smile under his thick beard. Impressive work under pressure, team. Julian, your leadership in crisis is commendable. As they gathered around, breathing heavily but exhilarated, Julian reflected on the experience. It's about more than just medical skills, he said to the group. It's about keeping calm when everything else is chaos. Sari, returning with the last of the scattered supplies, nodded in agreement. And trusting each other. We couldn't have done it without teamwork. As the sun set over Talos 4, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape, Julian felt a profound connection to his team and a deeper understanding of what it meant to be a medical professional in the galaxy's most extreme situations. The day's lessons had gone beyond textbooks and simulations. They had learned about resilience, adaptability, and the importance of human ingenuity, even on a galactic scale. In the weeks following the field trip, life at the Galactic Medical Institute settled into a rhythm of lectures, lab sessions, and late-night study groups. Julian was deep into a complex simulation in the xenogenetics lab when his communicator beeped with an urgent message. "Medical alert. All students report to the main auditorium immediately," the robotic voice announced. Julian exchanged a puzzled look with Sari, who was also prepping for another test. They quickly gathered their things and hurried to the auditorium, joining a sea of anxious students and staff. The dean of the institute, a stern but fair Teldarian named Dr. Fenlor, stood on the stage, his expression grave. "We face an unprecedented situation," he began, his voice echoing through the packed room. "A pathogen outbreak has occurred on campus. It's spreading rapidly and symptoms are severe for many non-human species." Murmurs of concern filled the room. Julian's mind raced. His first real crisis as a medical student was not a simulation. Dr. Fenlor continued. "Symptoms include respiratory distress, high fever, and in severe cases, neurological decline. We need all hands on deck. This is not just a medical crisis, it's a test of our readiness and commitment." Julian felt a surge of adrenaline. He looked over at Sari, who nodded back with determined resolve. They were ready to help. Teams were quickly formed, and Julian found himself assigned to the diagnostic crew, tasked with identifying the pathogen. They gathered in one of the labs, where samples from infected patients were already being analyzed. "Let's sequence these samples ASAP," Julian directed, sliding his sample under the microscope. The familiar structure of the virus caught his eye almost immediately. It resembled the human rhinovirus, common back on Earth but apparently unknown here. "Guys, this looks like a cold virus from Earth," Julian announced, adjusting the image on the screen so everyone could see. "It's mostly harmless to humans, but looks like it's affecting others quite differently." Sari, working on a nearby console, updated her findings. "The genetic markers confirm it. It's a human virus. But how did it get here?" "That's the next question," Julian said. "But first, we need to handle containment and treatment." The next few hours were a blur as Julian and his team provided data to the medical staff, helping synthesize a mild antiviral that could be used until a more targeted treatment was developed. Julian's understanding of the virus played a crucial role in the quick development of interim protocols. Despite the chaos, Julian found himself moving from patient to patient, explaining the situation with a calmness he hadn't known he possessed. His ability to reassure and explain treatments in simple terms brought ease to many worried faces. By the end of the day, the outbreak was under control, though the campus remained on high alert. Julian slumped into a chair next to Sari, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did good today," Sari said, her voice tired but satisfied. "We did," Julian agreed, letting out a long breath. "But we need to figure out how it started. We can't let this happen again." As they discussed the potential pathways for the virus's introduction to the campus, Julian realized the importance of his unique position at the institute. His background as a human in a predominantly non-human school had become unexpectedly crucial. It was a reminder of how interconnected the galaxy was, and how even the smallest entities like viruses could have impacts that were felt across stars. In the days that followed, the Galactic Medical Institute was transformed. Hallways typically bustling with students rushing to classes were now quiet, lined with quarantine zones and medical stations. Julian spent long hours in the temporary command center set up in the main library, coordinating the Institute's response to the outbreak. Dr. Fenlor called a meeting to discuss the ongoing situation. The room was tense as the team gathered, maintaining distance and speaking through protective masks. "Julian, update us on the current status," Dr. Fenlor requested, his voice muffled but authoritative. Julian stood, clearing his throat. "We've managed to stabilize the spread within the campus. The antiviral protocols are holding, but it's a temporary solution. We're working on adapting human vaccines to work for various species affected. The challenge is the genetic diversity we're dealing with." A Murilian immunologist, Dr. Krez, nodded from across the table. "The adaptability of human vaccines is promising, but we need precise modifications to ensure they're effective and safe for all species." Julian replied, "I've been in touch with Earth's leading virologists. They've sent us data that could help tailor the vaccines. We're starting trials on modified doses today." The group discussed logistics, distribution plans, and safety measures. outlining a comprehensive strategy to combat the outbreak. After the meeting, Julian returned to the lab, where he was met by Sari and a team of researchers ready to start vaccine trials. "Ready to make history?" Sari asked, a slight smile visible in her eyes above her mask. "Let's do it," Julian said, feeling the weight of the moment. They worked through the night, testing formulations and analyzing responses. Progress was slow and meticulous, with each step documented and double-checked. Julian's human biology provided a unique benchmark for the trials, giving them crucial insights into how the vaccines could be adjusted. Days turned into a week, and finally, a breakthrough came. A vaccine formulation showed promising results across a sample of alien species. Relief washed over Julian as he reviewed the data. "This is it," he declared, almost in disbelief. "We need to start mass production immediately." Word spread quickly, and soon the entire campus was buzzing with a cautious optimism. Production of the vaccine ramped up, with Julian overseeing the process to ensure no step was missed. As the first doses were administered, Julian watched anxiously for any signs of adverse reactions. The campus medical teams were on high alert, but the vaccines were well tolerated, much to everyone's relief. Over the next few days, the number of new cases dropped significantly. The quarantine zones thinned out as patients recovered and were released. The atmosphere on campus began to shift from tense caution to hopeful relief. In a quiet moment in the now mostly empty command center, Dr. Fenlor approached Julian, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Your contributions have been invaluable, Julian. You've not only helped contain this crisis, but have also paved the way for future medical collaborations across species." Julian nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. "Thank you, Dr. Fenlor. It was a team effort. I'm just glad I could help." As they stood looking over the campus, now slowly coming back to life, Julian felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The crisis had tested them all, but it had also brought out the best in the Institute's diverse community. Julian realized that through unity and cooperation, they had turned a potential disaster into a testament to the strength of their collective resolve. The campus of the Galactic Medical Institute slowly resumed its normal rhythm as the vaccine Julian helped develop became widely distributed. Classrooms filled again, and the chatter of students once more filled the halls. Still, the echoes of the recent crisis lingered, reminding everyone of the delicate balance of interstellar health. Julian, now a respected figure on campus, was invited to join a special research team led by Dr. Krez, focusing on further refining the vaccine and exploring its long-term applications. The team, comprising top students and faculty from various species, met in the high-tech research lab to discuss their next steps. "Julian, your insight into human immune responses was crucial in the initial outbreak management," Dr. Krez stated as they gathered around the lab's central table, now scattered with datapads and molecular models. "We think this could be just the beginning. Your experience could help us design even more effective treatments." Julian nodded, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility. "Thank you, Dr. Krez. I'm ready to contribute however I can." The team's new goal was ambitious: to create a universal antiviral that could be quickly adapted to combat multiple pathogens, potentially benefiting countless species across the galaxy. Sari, also part of the team, leaned over a holographic display showing the molecular structure of the vaccine. "We're close to understanding how to make the vaccine's response more adaptable. Julian, what if we used a modular approach, swapping out targeted sequences based on the pathogen?" "That could work," Julian replied, his mind racing with possibilities. "It would be like having a customizable medical toolkit at our disposal." The team worked tirelessly, with Julian often staying late into the night, testing different configurations and documenting their effects. His unique perspective as a human in a predominantly alien academy had become an asset that bridged species and scientific disciplines. After weeks of intense research and collaboration, the team made a significant breakthrough. They developed a prototype of the modular antiviral that successfully neutralized a test virus in a controlled environment. Julian's proposal to use a modular approach had been the key. Excitement buzzed through the lab as the results came in. "We did it," Sari exclaimed, her face lit up with joy and relief. "We need to present this to the Galactic Health Council," Dr. Krez decided, turning to Julian. "And Julian, you should lead the presentation. This was your concept, after all." The thought of presenting their findings to the council was daunting, but Julian felt ready. The next few days were a blur of preparation and rehearsals, with the whole team supporting him. When the day of the presentation arrived, Julian stood before the council, a diverse group of representatives from across the galaxy. He explained the science, the process, and the potential impact of their discovery. The council listened intently, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and hope. At the end of his talk, the room erupted into applause. Julian felt a rush of adrenaline and relief. The council approved their project for further development and implementation. Walking out of the council chamber, Julian was met by his team, who lifted him into the air in celebration. "We're changing the galaxy, Julian!" Sari shouted over the cheers. Julian looked around at his team, realizing that this moment was bigger than any one person or species. They were pioneering a new era of medical science, not just for humans, but for all beings across the stars. This unity and shared purpose felt like the true essence of what it meant to be part of the Galactic Medical Institute. The success of Julian and his team's breakthrough in the Universal Antiviral Project rapidly gained recognition across galactic communities. As news of their innovative approach spread, Julian found himself increasingly in the spotlight, invited to speak at various interstellar symposiums and medical conferences. Back at the Galactic Medical Institute, the campus buzzed with pride and excitement. Julian, while preparing for an upcoming lecture, felt a sense of deep fulfillment, but also a heavy weight of expectation. His work had transcended beyond academic achievement. It was now a beacon for medical progress galaxy-wide. One morning, as he walked through the corridors lined with congratulatory holograms, Dr. Fenlor approached him, his steps quick with enthusiasm. "Julian, the board has decided to honor you and your team with the Pioneer in Medical Science Award. We're hosting a ceremony next week right here on campus. It's a big deal, my boy." Julian was taken aback, his mind momentarily reeling from the news. "Thank you, Dr. Fenlor. It's really a team effort, though. I couldn't have done any of this without them." "Of course," Dr. Fenlor agreed. "The whole team will be celebrated. But Julian, your leadership and unique insight were instrumental in this achievement. It's a proud moment for us all." The day of the ceremony arrived, and the main auditorium was filled with students, faculty, and various dignitaries from across the galaxy. As Julian stood backstage, waiting to be called, he reviewed his speech, trying to steady his nerves. Sari, ever supportive, gave him an encouraging nod. "Today isn't just about what we've accomplished," Julian thought, refining his words. "It's about what we can achieve together in the future." When his name was called, applause thundered through the auditorium. Julian stepped up to the podium, the bright lights of the auditorium shining down on him. He looked out at the crowd, their faces a mosaic of the galaxy's diversity. "Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings," Julian began, his voice clear and strong. "Today we celebrate not just a medical achievement, but a testament to what we can accomplish when we combine our knowledge, our skills, and our visions for a healthier galaxy." He continued, detailing the journey from the outbreak to the development of the antiviral, emphasizing the collaborative nature of their work. "This award," he said, holding the statuette that glittered under the auditorium lights, "represents more than science. It represents our shared commitment to preserving life, no matter the planet or the people." After the ceremony, as Julian mingled among his peers, receiving congratulations and fielding questions about what their next project might be, he felt a profound connection to something larger than himself. His journey had started as a singular human among a sea of aliens, but now he stood as a peer, a friend, and a leader in a community bound by common goals. As the event drew to a close, Dr. Krez leaned in, a smile spreading across his face. "You've set the bar high, Julian. What's next for you?" Julian chuckled, his mind already racing with ideas and possibilities. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. There's a whole universe of challenges out there, and I think we're just getting started." Leaving the auditorium, Julian felt energized by the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. With each step, he was not just walking towards his next class or meeting. He was moving towards a future where humanity played a crucial role in the vast tapestry of galactic health and prosperity. The weeks following the ceremony were a whirlwind of activities for Julian. He was now not only a full-time student, but also a part-time ambassador for the Institute's collaborative health initiatives. His work had inspired a new generation of students and researchers from across the galaxy to look towards human medical sciences with renewed interest. As the semester drew to a close, the campus organized a multicultural celebration, showcasing the diverse cultures and achievements of its students. Julian, with his newfound status, was asked to spearhead the event. The celebration was not just about entertainment. It aimed to foster deeper understanding and collaboration among the various species and cultures. The day of the event, the campus was transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors, sounds, and scents. Booths displaying different planetary delicacies, traditional garments, and technological innovations lined the main square. Julian walked through the crowd, absorbing the joyful expressions and the enthusiastic exchanges between students of different backgrounds. At the center of the square, a stage had been set up for performances. Julian watched as a group of Lyrans performed a gravity-defying dance, their bodies flowing like water in the low-gravity environment they had created. Applause erupted from the audience, composed of beings from dozens of worlds. Later, as Julian took the stage to give a speech, he looked out over the crowd, a reflection of the galaxy's vast diversity. Today we see before us a small representation of our galactic community, Julian began, his voice carrying over the crowd. Each culture, each species here has its own unique beauty and wisdom. Yet despite our differences, we share common goals: peace, health, and the pursuit of knowledge. He continued, "Let this festival be a reminder of what we achieve when we come together. The challenges we face as a galaxy are vast, but our combined efforts, our shared dreams, are greater. Let's continue to learn from each other and grow together." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the campus, music filled the air, and Julian stepped down from the stage to join his friends. Sari met him with a wide smile, handing him a drink from her home world. "To new beginnings," she toasted. "To unity and diversity," Julian responded, clinking his cup against hers. The evening progressed with laughter and stories shared between old and new friends alike. Julian felt a deep sense of belonging and purpose. He had come to the Institute as an outsider, a lone human in a sea of unknowns. Now he was a part of something much larger, a community that stretched across the stars. As the celebration continued into the night, Julian took a moment to step back and take it all in. The lights, the sounds, the harmonious blend of myriad cultures. It was a testament to the Institute's spirit and the potential of their united future. With a contented sigh, Julian realized that this ending was really just another beginning. The future was bright with promise, and humanity, with all its quirks and qualities, was ready to play its part in the grand tapestry of galactic civilization. As the stars twinkled above, mirroring the lights of the festival below, Julian knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with courage and curiosity. This unity and diversity wasn't just an ideal, it was a living, thriving reality.